so this is another video of I've dried off the paint. This is I'll start again. This is the original painting of Nesscliffe. This is the first one, and the ones underneath that I'm going to be working on, you might have seen the initial stages of the painting that were probably on a previous video. Yeah, they're going to highly likely to go either side of that, but I wanted to give you a frame of reference. So that's the first one, and then these are going to be the second two, if I can maintain doing two different paintings on one sheet. So I thought I'd film a bit of me working on, and these are quite popular thing with me, the Pilot Parallel pens, and they're calligraphy pens, but I'm a big fan of what they've done with nib technology, but apparently that makes me a bit of a, I don't know, an art equipment nerd. I've had a few people say I get a bit too enthusiastic about the potential in art equipment, or using something as a piece of art equipment. I find that when I'm going around builders' yards. Anyway, yeah, I digress, as I often do. So, I used tissue paper to establish some of the tonal values in the background, but I'll be using that again. It's very water soluble, this ink, so, and like the ink underneath of it, it's quite pliable once it's dry, as long as it's still porous. And I think technically that makes it a dye and not an ink. That's what I was told by somebody far more knowledgeable than me. Yeah, whoever planted these trees, this is an area, again, if you haven't seen the previous video, it's an area called Nesscliffe in Shropshire, between Oswestry and Shrewsbury, however. Big deal to the locals, apparently, how you pronounce that word. Shrewsbury seems to be the correct way, since as the word was spelled S-H-R-O-O-S-B-U-R-Y. So it is Shrewsbury. My mum loves. I always think it sounds a bit toffee nosed when you put it like that, but anyway, it's between Shrewsbury, and another quite big market town called Oswestry. It's quite local to me around here. Yeah, and whoever planted them, there's some sort of, I'm guessing some sort of evergreen, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But the long trunks look fantastic. Like, you really get a high contrast of like, it's basically in the background. This is the, I've vaguely put the horizon line in. It's about here. And that's looking over the Shropshire Plains. And they, as I titled the earlier piece that I was showing you, the bigger one, I called that plateau breech, and that's because it literally it's the trunks just breaching all the way along it, just breach the horizon line. It's not like you get a lot of foliage. There's some foliage on top of it, but I like the fact that you can see through this quite readily, because they're up there on that. You know, I'm sure it'll change. I don't know, maybe it won't over time, but they're pretty much, they're on their own on this part of on their own plateau up there, sort of thing. When you're looking at them from, or looking at things from their perspective, I suppose. So yeah, I'm going to use a different thickness of pen. So that's the finished one, the yellow one, and this is the medium one. You don't have to use. You can use them. You can use them right on the edge, and you can get a microscopically thin line out of them if you want. And obviously, they go through quite a bit of ink, these do, but I think it's worth it. But I've noticed a few people that, once I've put them onto them, and they're quite fond of cartridge pen drawings, you don't tend to put them down. I don't want to go into it, I just want a rough idea of where I want things to sit. I'm going to lift an awful lot of this out. Which is why I left a lot of the grey in the background, because what looked like quite obvious composition devices will get, they're going to get really broken up. While I wait for that one to do its thing, I'll work on this one over here and do something similar. I want it to dry basically, so when I'm going to use the tissue paper technique again over the top of the dry ink, and because it's a lot more effective when it's dry. You get a lot, much more definition. And as I've got this one to work on, I'll do that for the moment. Yeah, this is going to be interesting because there's a central, it's almost like a dead tree here. But what's interesting about it is that it's completely white. I don't know what it is. It's almost like some sort of calcification's taken place in it. I'm not, what do they call, I forget what it's called now. I'm thinking of ware tree, and that is an arboretum. I'm not sure what you call somebody who is, their specialist subject is trees. That's vague. Check the cartridge on this. Yep, that's what I thought. But yeah, tonally, it's going to make things quite interesting. Because obviously it's part of a triptych, so I've got to maintain some sort of continuity of the tones across, which are established across the other two paintings. Obviously that one, that side, and the one I showed you earlier that I've removed now from your view. What I would, if you were painting it on its own, you just darken the background to establish the fact that it's much lighter tones, but that's not an option that's really available here. We'll see. There might be a way of using it. It's a lot darker down the bottom, and the way it breaks the horizon line, I think I can use that to my advantage, so we'll see. Sort of. Clever with a painting here when I come back in to put that in with a brush. Don't want that running over onto the other side. Really helpful being a left-hander as well. It's on the right-hand side of the picture, so I can't go and work on it in the... Perhaps I will actually. It's quite in the foreground, this area. so. Okay. Cut a few strips up of tissue paper. And then I'm just going to use that to lift the ink out. I'll go back in and probably be a bit more extensive about it. To break up the I'm going to do the same with that. Bigger bit of paper needs a bigger brush. So yeah, I'm constantly looking to break up, at this point, what I've crudely established on, you know, it's going to be really important with this, it's the central, it's the centre point of this composition, I suppose. It's this, I don't know what it is, what's happened to this tree. It does, like I say, it looks calcified. some of these will be dry. Or you might have to tolerate the hairdryer noise in a minute, and then I can show you the sort of tactile qualities you can, once it's dry, the ink that is, working back into it. Perhaps I should stop calling it ink and start calling it dye. That might be more appropriate. I got told off for calling it ink once and it seemed like a pretty convincing argument why it was actually called dye. I'm going to break that up though, because again I think that's quite an important part. I don't like that solid. I don't mind having this corner in here, but I'm not having a continuation across there in that line without breaking it. I want something more vertical. So, yeah, just to complement what's going on in the rest of the composition. I'm going to have a swig of tea now, but I'll do a little bit down here as well. But for that, I'm going to use this Blitz, whatever it's called. It's in most high streets. It's got the parquet flooring pattern to it. Just cutting some random shapes. Use it as a way of kind of establishing the quite visible. It's not so visible in the earlier, bigger piece. I showed you at the beginning of the video, but the horizon's quite visible on this one on the left. So I want to do more than allude to it really. And I have done, obviously there, but I don't want to go. It is also faded too. It's receding into the distance, so. If I catch it right with this patternation on the tissue paper or the kitchen roll that I'm using right now, it leaves a really, really good idiosyncratic mark. It's very organic, even though it's a very manufactured thing when you look at it as a piece of equipment. They all tessellate with each other, but not when you give it a soak, and you get some really interesting patterns out of it. I'm going to do that, I think, across there. Same again, over on this side. I've already put some in on the central branch, but I'm going to do some on the its accompanying trees. The reason I'm using different tissue papers, especially where the trees are concerned, that might not play out like this, but it has done in the past, that you get much more, how do I put this? There's just much more detail in using the using like toilet tissue paper, which is essentially loo roll, which is essentially what this is. It dries out quicker and it leaves a less uniform mark than the one with the, obviously with the parquet flooring pattern across it. That maintains its surface integrity a lot better than this will dry in a very ununiform way. And it, for me, I think, I might be wrong about this, I hope I'm not, but that's going to be, that'll pay off later when I use that as texture for the tree, for the trunk of the tree. You'll see little, hopefully I can bring that into play, details that really are to do with the chemical process of it, of the ink drying with two paper surfaces, affecting that drying time. That one is also there. But I might actually use the parquet flooring bit over here. I don't like the square line, like a set square there in the corner. I'm going to break that up. Some of that wet ink will pull in and across and cause some mark making across that, but it might not. It might be very, very subtle, virtually invisible subtle.